Hello, welcome to Book Journey. Today we are going to read Technics and Civilization, written by Lewis Mumford. Mumford, 1895 to 1990, was a renowned American historian, sociologist, urban planner, and cultural critic. He was famous for his in-depth studies on technology, urbanization, architecture, and culture, with a particular focus on the relationship between technology and human society. Technics and Civilization, published in 1934, is one of his important works. After its publication, the book quickly attracted widespread attention and discussion, and had a profound influence in both academic and social circles. It has been translated into many languages, including French, German, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, and Chinese. Mumford was born in 1895, and grew up in the United States at the beginning of the 20th century, a time when the modernization process was accelerating and industrialization and technology were developing rapidly. Mumford had profound observations and reflections on these social changes. Against this backdrop, he wrote Technics and Civilization, attempting to reveal the complex relationship between technology and civilization through historical analysis. Even today, in the Department of the History of Science and Technology at Tsinghua University, there hangs a large portrait of Mumford, which shows his status in the history of technology and the philosophy of technology. In Technics and Civilization, Mumford did not start by discussing technology itself, but began from a cultural perspective. You might find it strange that when discussing technology and civilization, shouldn't we start with technology? However, Mumford chose to start with culture. He believed that machines are not devices, but a collection of habits, thoughts, and ways of life, and they are a cultural system. Mumford pointed out that different ethnic groups have their own extensive accumulation of technology. They have a variety of machines, but they do not necessarily have the concept of a machine system. In history, Western Europeans were the first to further develop physical science and precision craftsmanship, reaching a level that other cultures had not achieved. This led to an entire way of life that adapted to the pace and capabilities of machines, creating a machine civilization. To illustrate this point, Mumford divided the development of technology into three stages: Eotechnic, Paleotechnic, and Neotechnic. The Eotechnic stage roughly occurred from 1000 to 1750 AD, also known as the Dawn period. The technology of this stage was characterized by the use of natural materials and human labor. The technology of this era coexisted harmoniously with the natural environment, such as the use of windmills and water wheels, the development of mechanical clocks, and progress in glass and woodworking. Mumford emphasized that the technological innovations of the Eotechnic stage aim to improve daily life, not to maximize production efficiency and expand power. The Paleotechnic stage of technology occurred roughly from 1700 to 1900 AD, overlapping with the Eotechnic stage by about 50 years. The Paleotechnic stage was the era of the Industrial Revolution, marked by the rise of coal, iron, and steam power. This period introduced large-scale factories, began mass production of goods, accelerated urbanization, and gradually transformed nations into industrial powers. Mumford described this period as a barbaric upsurge with a focus on the exploitation of natural resources and the maximization of economic output, often at the expense of human well-being and environmental health. Labor in the Paleotechnic stage began to experience alienation, with workers becoming appendages to machines, living conditions becoming extremely poor, and wages being very low. The Neotechnic stage of technology began around 1900, characterized by the invention of electricity, advanced scientific research, and the large-scale use of lightweight, multifunctional materials such as aluminum. During this period, industrial machinery shifted from massive brute force to more refined and efficient technologies. The Neotechnic stage was marked by the decentralization of production, the rise of small-scale and specialized manufacturing, and an emphasis on innovation and scientific discovery. Mumford believed that this stage allowed for more human-centered and sustainable technological development, focusing on improving quality of life and reducing environmental impact. As a scholar of the philosophy of technology, I basically agree with Mumford's division of machine stages, and you may also find it reasonable. But the focus is not on historical segmentation. We are more interested in asking why humans invented machines in the first place. This is a philosophical question. The most general answer is that we invented machines to solve practical problems. This is certainly a reasonable response, but through the segmentation of technological history, Mumford offers a completely different answer. Mumford believed that the essence of machines is a civilization originating from the pursuit of order. He pointed out that in ancient societies, whether in Constantinople and Baghdad, or in Sicily and Cordoba, with the disintegration of the Roman Empire, society experienced great turmoil. In this turmoil, people particularly longed for control and order, hoping that life could return to a stable state. The pursuit of a steady state was not first reflected in the rule of monarchs, but in the Western monasteries. Why is that? Because in Mumford's view, outside the walls of the monastery, society was full of war, disease, and famine, but within the walls of the monastery, monks resisted impermanence through spiritual activities and constructed a very orderly way of life. In Western history, the monastery was the first place that required clocks. This was because, in contrast to the capricious and unstable nature of secular life, the temple had some very regular, iron-like routines. A typical example is Saint Benedict, who introduced a rhythmic element into daily prayers. Saint Benedict of Nursia was one of the important founders of Western Christian monastic life. He wrote the Rule of Saint Benedict in the 6th century, which became the cornerstone of the Western monastic system. Benedict particularly emphasized a rhythmic life of prayer, drawing on the teachings of the Book of Psalms in the Bible, especially the verse 7 times a day I praise you because of your righteous judgments. Benedict incorporated the number 7 into the rhythm of daily prayers. The day's prayers were divided into matins, lauds, prime, terce, sext, none, and vespers, totaling 7 times. By the 7th century, Pope Sabinianus required that the monastery's clocks strike 7 times a day. Following this rhythm for prayer and life, people entered a very strict rhythmic way of living. Daily life was to be as free from uncertainty as possible to resist impermanence. By the 13th century, secular cities also gradually began to arrange life according to mechanical clocks, and the pursuit of order was reflected in the widespread use of clocks. Clocks, while bringing order, also reinvented time. Clocks are not just for measuring time. They actually produce time. What does this mean? When we talk about measuring time, we usually think that time is objectively existing, such as a day divided into 24 hours, each hour into 60 minutes, and each minute into 60 seconds. The role of the clock is just to indicate this evenly flowing time. Let's imagine together, is it possible that time does not flow evenly, unidirectionally, and in a scale? Is it possible that it is precisely because of the clock that we began to perceive time in this way? Time originally might have been very specific, not digital and abstract. For example, the 12-hour system widely used in the Han Dynasty divided a day into 12 hours, each hour equivalent to 2 hours now. However, unlike our fixed 24-hour system today, the ancient time division was based on the equal day and night principle, that is, day and night were each divided into 6 hours. Since the length of day and night varies with the seasons, the length of the hours in ancient China had to be dynamically adjusted according to the time of sunrise and sunset, and was not fixed like the modern hour system. It was not until the advent of clocks that uniform clock time replaced solar time. This is why Mumford said that clocks did not simply indicate time but invented time. With the advent of clocks, a second in spring became the same as a second in winter, turning a second into an abstract numerical symbol detached from specific things. Mumford pointed out that the invention and widespread use of clocks eventually led to the belief that there is a mathematically measurable world detached from specific things, which greatly enhanced human subjectivity and made the world more orderly. Around 1345, Westerners gradually accepted the habit of dividing an hour into 60 minutes and a minute into 60 seconds. According to Mumford, from that time on, the machine civilization gradually began. Mumford's insight lies in reminding us that one important reason we crave machines is that they bring a sense of order. The invention and widespread application of clocks were actually the precursors to machine civilization. The introduction of clocks gradually divided the world into 24 uniform time segments, turning it into a measurable object. Clocks also gradually moved from monastic life to factories, where the lifestyle and organizational form of modern capitalist factories were established, and machines were able to spread on a large scale. Thus, Mumford firmly stated, the key machine of the modern industrial age is not the steam engine but the clock. At every stage of its development, the clock is not only an outstanding representative of machines, but also a typical symbol of machine civilization. Mumford's insight actually has a response today. Not long ago, the TV drama My Alte became very popular. The author of the original work, Li Jun, mentioned a viewpoint that working in a factory to tighten screws was a particularly happy thing for her. Why? Because in that kind of life, she could gain a sense of stability. She said that at that time, she and her mother were constantly on the move and could not find jobs. They just wanted to find a factory to tighten screws. This job did not require thinking, only manual work. She could work while daydreaming, had fixed tasks every day, and received a fixed salary every month. Therefore, she felt very happy. This statement puzzled many people. Some friends felt that working to tighten screws every day was very tedious, just simple repetition, lacking creativity, and monotonous and boring. However, when Li Jun said this, her context was that she and her mother were wandering around, living a life similar to that of gypsies, and were often hungry. In this disorderly life, people did not know what would happen tomorrow, and their minds were in a continuous state of stress. In this situation, people's greatest desire was to gain a sense of order to combat the unpredictable life. In this context, the machine life in the factory could bring her peace. This is precisely what Mumford said, that people embrace machines because of their longing for order. Earlier, we mentioned that mechanical clocks enable time to be precisely divided, thus bringing a predictable and manageable rhythm to life. It was the epitome of the perfect machine prototype, providing a sense of psychological stability in an unstable society. However, with technological advancements, especially entering what Mumford referred to as the Paleotechnic and Neotechnic eras, machines seemed not only to fail to relieve people's anxieties, but also to introduce new forms of servitude. Industrialization and large-scale machine production led to the deterioration of the human labor environment and the alienation of labor. Workers became mere appendages to machines, engaging in monotonous and repetitive tasks on assembly lines, struggling to find a sense of meaning. The centralization and bureaucratization of the modern machine system compressed the space for individual freedom, exacerbating social inequality. In response to this situation, Mumford introduced an intriguing concept, the megamachine. What is the megamachine? In his book The Myth of the Machine, Mumford explained that the megamachine is not a specific mechanical device, but a social bureaucratic mechanism. Typically, we understand machines as physical devices composed of steel and gears. Mumford, however, had a unique perspective. He argued that when the Egyptians began constructing monumental projects like the pyramids, the megamachine had already emerged. Building the pyramids required a highly complex bureaucratic system, including overseers, laborers, logistics personnel, engineers, and inspectors. This system demanded clear division of responsibilities, ensuring that each individual undertook specific tasks, fitting together like gears in a machine. The pyramids were not only architectural marvels, but also symbolized the arrangement of power and bureaucratic systems. Mumford used the term megamachine to describe this system, emphasizing how it incorporated human individuals into a vast collective, reducing people to small components within a grand structure. Thus, machines not only brought specific functions but also introduced a neutral order. This order could enhance productivity, efficiency, stability, and predictability, but might also lead to human alienation, concentration of power, and social inequality. Mumford began to question, "We have achieved remarkable results in energy and in the products we produce, but at the same time, we see the monotony of lifestyles and the withering of life." Mumford pointed out that the megamachine system led to a form of purposeless materialism, where the entire society faced an excess of power. The machine system continuously drove production, regarding the manufacturing of specific material products as a compulsive demand. This production was not aimed at meeting people's needs. Production became an end in itself, which Mumford termed purposeless materialism. In a society dominated by the megamachine, products were manufactured regardless of whether they were needed, inventions were applied regardless of their usefulness, and power was utilized regardless of its effectiveness. What was wrong with purposeless materialism? In Mumford's view, it brought significant risks. Purposeless materialism led to an abundance of trivial material products in society. There were ear scoops with cameras, glasses for video recording, and lights to illuminate phone screens. In the United States, a brand even launched headphones with air purification functions, equipped with filters and air ducts connected to the nose to provide fresh air while listening to music, priced at $1,000. More awkwardly, many people believed that products packaged by modern machines seemed more sophisticated. Mumford cited a representative example. In the 1930s, American farmers could directly enjoy the fresh vegetables and fruits they grew, but some felt this was not sophisticated enough and preferred to buy canned food from supermarkets, despite its lack of freshness and poor taste. Purchasing these machine-processed products from supermarkets was considered a symbol of a more affluent and better life at the time. Mumford joked that in a society where some people need canes due to physical discomfort, it is normal. However, if one believes that a society needing canes is better than a healthy society, that is absurd. Similarly, originally, human society's low level of productivity required machines to help us meet basic material living security, and using machines was certainly a legitimate thing. But with the deep technologicalization of human society, we have mastered a large number of complex and efficient power technologies, and can waste a lot of energy to produce trivial products. At this time, there is a problematic trend. People have become more fanatical in production and consumption. Machines no longer bring convenience and well-being, but waste and burden. In Chapter 8, the final chapter of Technics and Civilization, Lewis Mumford discusses the potential demise of the machine system. He argues that certain characteristics of the modern machine system may lead to its own collapse. On one hand, the machine system relies on highly centralized and bureaucratic structures. While these structures enhance productivity and efficiency, they also bring about significant social inequality. The environmental destruction and excessive resource consumption by the machine system are also unsustainable. On the other hand, the machine system, with its core values of efficiency and productivity, fundamentally conflicts with the richness and diversity of human nature. Mumford points out that the single-minded pursuit of technological progress and economic growth, while neglecting other important values in human life such as community, family, art, and spiritual life, will ultimately lead to social disharmony and a great cultural decline. Of course, the demise of the machine system does not mean the complete abandonment of technology. Instead, it calls for a profound reflection on the existing machine system. We should not blindly worship machines and be enslaved by them without realizing it. Only with a full understanding of the machine system can we establish a more humanized and ecological technological system that truly ensures and fully realizes the harmonious coexistence of humans and nature, as well as the comprehensive freedom and liberation of humans. In this book, Mumford also reviews some attempts in human history to combat the machine system. Let's take a look together and perhaps gain some beneficial insights. One approach is to reminisce about tradition and return to nature. With the continuous development of technology, by the 18th century, the Western world had already begun to respond to the strong growth of the machine system. One response was the emergence of a nostalgia for the past, with many intellectuals attempting to revive classical ways of life. For instance, there was a significant revival of classical elements in art and lifestyle, and Gothic culture was also resurrected in a short period of time. People started to preserve their local cultural heritage. The machine system tends to centralize power and standardize production, a model that weakens local culture and individual expression. In contrast, Gothic culture particularly emphasizes intricate craftsmanship and local characteristics, which puts it in opposition to the machine system. Looking back at tradition can provide an alternative perspective for examining contemporary life and offer psychological and emotional comfort to some extent, countering the monotony of machine civilization. At the same time, another force that can counteract the conquest of machines is the return to nature. The rural environment became a primary means of escaping machines and factories in the 18th century. The Enlightenment thinker Jean-Jacques Rousseau was a representative advocate of this idea. He particularly promoted the wisdom of farmers and the healing characteristics of rural life, encouraging people to leave cities and move to the countryside to experience rural living and directly connect life with the land. Let me add a bit more. Rousseau is a well-known figure. He wrote Discourse on the Origin and Basis of Inequality Among Men and Confessions. In fact, his debut work is called Discourse on the Sciences and Arts. Rousseau published this essay in 1750 at the age of 38. This essay won him the first prize in the essay competition of the French Academy of Dijon, and Rousseau became famous overnight. In this short essay, Rousseau argued that the development of science and the arts did not elevate people's moral standards, but could even lead to moral degradation. Why did he say that? Because the prosperity of science and the arts made people more eager to pursue a comfortable, luxurious, and ostentatious life, neglecting the cultivation of virtue. Moreover, the development of science could also exacerbate social inequality because the accumulation of knowledge would inevitably be monopolized by a minority, thereby excluding the general public. Rousseau had already keenly perceived more than 270 years ago that the great development of technology might lead to a kind of materialism, thereby causing the degradation of virtue. Rousseau was a clever and knowledgeable thinker and extremely frank. His ideas were delicate and sharp, able to see those particularly subtle signs and make in-depth explanations. However, despite the efforts of humanists like Rousseau, their resistance was not very successful in terms of results. But we might say that this resistance itself has its own humanistic value. Humanist intellectuals advocate returning to nature and the land. Their attempts provide necessary resistance to the rapid advancement of technology, playing a certain balancing role. Just as the purpose of braking while driving is not to stop moving forward, but to provide necessary resistance to ensure a safe arrival at the destination. Humanists are not conservative. They are just more accustomed to examining contemporary life from a longer past and a more distant future, which makes them seem a bit slow. At the end of the book, Mumford delves into a critique of capitalist society, attempting to regulate the development of technology through the redesign of the social system. In my view, this part may not be more feasible than the strategy of looking back at tradition and returning to nature. Recently, Technics and Civilization has been republished by Press. I wrote a new recommendation for this new edition. If you are interested, you can find it and read it. You may have your own judgment.